Also at a time where I was feeling particularly creatively blocked, very much, why am I doing this? I'm not good, just all that negative self-talk. But yet there is still this like deep-seated part of me that wanted to create and wants to create. The Artist Way is a 12-week program written by Julia Cameron to help you unblock your inner artist. Each chapter is a different week, and it actually starts at week 0 to kind of help you set up for what to expect in the coming weeks. So you'll read through some essays, and then there are tasks for you to do. Some of the tasks are written, some are physical activities outside, others are within your home, and at the end of every week you will do a check-in to kind of see how it went and just where you are mentally and physically in this journey. Along with all of that, each week you will take yourself on an artist date, and this is a date you go on alone. You do not bring anybody, and it is a time for you to play. So whatever you want to do that seems fun and interesting and maybe a little outside of the box, that is what you are going to do. And then maybe one of the more famous things to come out of the Artist Way are the morning pages, which are 3 pages that you handwrite every single morning for the duration of the 12 weeks and hopefully beyond. She really pushes that this is, if you take nothing else from this, it is to write your morning pages. And they can be about anything. They are not meant to be judged, not meant to be shared, and really not even meant to be reread. Although there is a task in about week 8, I think it is, where you actually go back and reread and highlight and whatever. But otherwise, they're just supposed to be a brain dump of what you have to do that day, how you've been feeling, your grocery list, whatever. Some days you will have a bunch of things to write, and some days it will feel like nothing. And she says in those days where there's nothing, you can literally write, I have nothing to write for 3 pages. And I want to make it very clear that the Artist's Way is not teaching you how to be creative. It's not teaching you how to write a novel, how to be a better painter, how to dance, how to compose a ballad. As I said in the beginning, that it is about unblocking your inner artist. And the word unblock is so important. She talks about it so much in every single chapter, that there is something going on. Trauma, self-doubt, low self-esteem, self-worth, time, money, whatever, that is keeping you from wanting to be the artist that you feel like you can be. And that is why you picked up this book, and that is what is going to be worked through in this book. It is an intense process if you allow it to be. With therapy and with a fitness program or a certain eating program, it only works if you work. So before week 1, as I said, there's like a week 0 that kind of preps you for all of this. In this week 0, she talks about God and how she will use the word God throughout the book, and you will examine your relationship with God. I immediately read this and was like, oh no. Eek. I was definitely a little nervous, but as she explained, she is not using God in a singular term. So she does not mean like a Catholic God or a Jewish God or a Muslim God. It is just a higher being. If your God happens to be the Catholic God and that's who you envision when you are reading these, go for it. But you can replace God in the book with whatever term you want. So goddess, higher power, the universe, source, energy, whatever is comfortable for you. So week 1, right off the bat, she punches me in my gut with a quote that says, storytellers go into advertising. So she's kind of listing this paradox, I guess you could say, of you want to tell a story, but you feel that the field is uncertain, or you don't think you're good enough, or just like all that stuff. and advertising is like a legitimate job, so you go into that because it still kind of ties in. And I talk about this all the time. I went into advertising and studied advertising because I loved being able to tell a story of a brand. And I used to write creatively all the time and only picked it back up within the past few months of really doing this. But there was a time in my life when I did want to be a creative writer, and it just kind of fell by the wayside again. We will get into all of that. But it was literally like the second page that quote came up, and I was like, oh, all right, I see how it is going to be. She will also talk about your censor. So your censor is basically all the negative thoughts and self-talk that you have, and you are supposed to write this sentence. So some of it's filled in, but this was mine. I, Amelia, am a brilliant and prolific storyteller. And I have to tell you right now, even reading that into the camera and knowing it's going to make it into this video makes me cringe, because my censor goes, no, you're not. And then I immediately had to write like what came up for my censor. So it was like, that's a lie, you're a liar, you're just writing that because, you know, Julia told you to, you're not, like, who do you think you are? All that sort of stuff. And even being in week 11, the censor came back reading that into the camera because there is still so much more to work through. But know that, again, those blocks and that censor is going to be a theme that comes up throughout the weeks. And also to round out week 1, kind of going into week 2, a task was to talk about the old enemies of your creativity. So these could be people, events that happened, yourself, whatever, just something that made you not believe in your creativity. And in week 2, again, kind of like right out the gate, it is about being able to trust your creativity and knowing when a person has your best intentions at heart and is giving you constructive criticism to make, you better or to tweak something, versus when someone is just being a jerk. And I don't want to linger on this too much because it's going to be a really long video, but I, want to give you an example so you can kind of understand like the depth that we're working towards and kind of like where I am coming from. And I just kind of want to like get this off my chest almost. So one of my enemies and someone that came up was a high school teacher of mine, an English teacher. This English teacher was someone that a lot of people, both students and faculty, respected. And he literally told me, I don't like your writing voice. And so much so that I wrote an essay, gave it to my mom, and she wrote it in her voice, like her writing voice, which was like, I would say pretty like business formal. She, had been working for a lot of time, and you definitely have a different style of writing in like a business setting versus like creative writing. And she wrote it in that voice, and I submitted it. I don't think I can get in trouble for this anymore. And he was like, yeah, this was way better. Keep writing like this. Anytime I felt like I was expressing myself in my voice, it was seen like it wasn't good. And I was never given, again, constructive criticism. It was just like, not good, bad. And I've never gotten that outside of this one person. And it kind of made me realize, oh, that person's a jerk. Maybe they're just a jerk. And not everyone is going to love everything about you and your creativity, and sometimes it's just not going to vibe. And it's very difficult to learn the difference between being a jerk, someone genuinely offering constructive criticism, especially when you're young, and just starting out and all this stuff, and it's a very weird situation. And I just kind of wanted to share that as like a aha moment that I recently had. I mean, that was my senior year of high school. I'm turning 30 in 2 months. So I've taken that with me, and it makes me sad. It makes me angry, which is a theme and something that I really worked through on week 3. So week 3, Julia talks about anger and how anger is a very divisive emotion, and it's even something that I've had to get comfortable with. I never wanted to be angry or seem angry or hold on to anger because I think I only ever saw it as someone like punching a wall and like blind with rage. But in week 3, I literally wrote, I repressed my anger so much, and I would just say that instead of being like, I'm angry, I'd say, oh, I'm sad, or I'm upset, or like, yeah, that wasn't cool, to try to seem cool, and I didn't care, but it's like, I'm not being true to my emotions and who I am, therefore I like don't even know what my emotions are anymore. And there are times where it is okay to be mad, it is okay to be angry, obviously in a healthy way, and being able to communicate that in a healthy way. There can be power in anger, and there can be power in being true to your emotions. Week 4, no one told me about this before I started this. Week 4 was the reading deprivation week, as Julia calls it, but it's now kind of been turned into a media deprivation week. This book was written in the 90s, so obviously technology is very different. So in the book, she explains like no reading the newspaper, no reading books to fill your time, no reading. So in today's day and age, it is almost impossible not to read, and there are different things that hinder, so it's kind of turned into a media deprivation week. And this will range depending on your life. So for me personally, I cut out all personal social media. This is important because my 9 to 5 is in social media, so I can be like, peace out, I'm not working for a week, you know, not gonna fly. So no personal social media, no YouTube videos, no reading books, no reading articles, no reading magazines. This was really hard. Basically, the point of it is to just get yourself bored enough that you are actually doing something creative. And I did fill my time with some creative stuff. Like I creatively wrote, I painted a little bit, I drew a little bit, I did a puzzle, but a lot of the time it was like you don't want to do anything, right? There are moments where you're like, I just want to scroll mindlessly on my phone, or I just want to watch TV and relax. But you can't do that. You can't even read a book. So this was me. Like I literally feel like I just sat and stared for so many hours that week. Would I do that level of media deprivation again? I don't think so. I've personally taken social media breaks before, and I have found them very useful, and it is something I am going to implement. That was like a big shock when I opened week 4 and it was like media deprivation. I was like, should I quit? Should I stop? But you do feel better in a sense. It does allow you to kind of separate yourself and your mind and your ideas from the, barrage of constant imagery and content that we are subjected to. I say, as you are watching someone else's pieces of content. Week 5 comes my favorite quote of this whole series and a really big aha moment for me. So, week 5, she says, we may continue to produce creatively, but we are leeching blood from our cells, vampirizing our souls. I mean, first of all, obviously I love it a little bit because it pays homage to some vampires, but this was a huge moment for me, and I needed it written like this, like kind of like bloody, gory, to understand that that is what I was doing and have been doing. As I said, I do social media in my 9 to 5, so I am the idea person, the executor, the graphic designer, the poster, the analyst. Like, I am everything. And then in my off time, I am doing it again. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, now Twitch. There is a lot. And I am pushing and grinding out ideas. And I could not figure out, hey, Why do you keep having to take extended breaks from YouTube? Why do you keep getting in your own way? What is going on? You are literally sucking the life force out of your creativity and squeezing it for every last drop without saying thank you, without being grateful, with being the harshest critic in the world, not giving yourself any grace, nothing. Where it was just like, I can't think of an idea, so I have to think harder, I have to do better. And then if an idea came to me, it would be like, great. And at the end of like creating a video, I'd be like, cool, and post it and be like, all right, well, this is everything I could have done better. This sucks, I need to do better. As I said, without taking a minute to be thankful. So it was at this point that, again, my mindset really started to change. And I really kind of switched from I gotta grind and I gotta do it, to an okay, it's fine to create something and say, hey, you know, this could be better, but I created this and I am proud of it in this moment because it is a representation of what's ever happening, whatever I'm doing. And for that, I am thankful. I have created things and I am doing things creatively that might never see the light of day, and that's fine because I just want to create them for myself. And again, allowing myself to play, I think that's been a positive of the artist date that has come out, is like, I'm just gonna play, I'm just gonna mess around, not gonna show anyone. Like, my boyfriend wanted me to show him some of the drawings I've been doing, and I'm like, no. And it's nothing against him, it's not even like I'm shy or I think he's gonna judge me. It's just like, right now, these are just for me. You know, it's just something I'm doing, and when I'm ready to show you, I will show you, if ever. So week 5 definitely became a turning point. In week 6, we talk about the scarcity complex. You've probably heard this before. A lot of people have it around money, where you need to hoard the thing because you don't think there is enough to go around. I will double check, but I think this might also be the week where we start talking about God a bit more. And Julia poses the question of, why do you have the scarcity complex around your creativity? In here, she talks about trusting that your creativity is a gift from the universe, and there is an endless supply of it, that you don't need to feel like this one thing is it, and it's never going to happen again. There is more than enough to go around. And one of her students, she uses as an example, and the student never wanted to treat themselves to raspberries because they always thought they were too expensive. And then one of the tasks is to treat yourself. It doesn't have to be, you know, a Birkin. It can be as simple as some raspberries. And at the end of the week, they come back to the check-in. The student basically says, I bought myself the raspberries and it was great. I love raspberries. You know, it brought me so much joy for like $3. She says, I guess it's just more than I thought I was worth. And oof, doesn't that hurt? This idea that you're not even worth a $3 thing of raspberries. I discussed this a lot with my therapist. She would be like, treat yourself, Amelia, like buy yourself something. You know, you are in a financial position to do this. Obviously, this is a privileged take because some people genuinely cannot afford, you know, to do this. But I'm like, well, I get myself like a coffee on the way to work. Like, that's the treat. And she's like, is that the treat? Like, you're drinking coffee, like you're a coffee drinker, so you're just getting, and I'm like, well, you know, it's like $4, so whatever. It was a big thing of just dream a little bigger, girl, like get yourself just something a little bit nicer. And I still fall into that where it's like, I want this thing and I have the money, but I don't deserve it. And that is a whole other thing, way too big for this video. But it just goes along with kind of like the low self-worth of feeling like you don't deserve good things, you don't deserve nice things, you don't deserve almost to be creative. Like, there's someone better than you, more creative, smarter, wittier, whatever. So they'll get you know, the applause or whatever it is, like your goal is that person will get it. And because of the scarcity complex and you not believing that there is enough from the universe, that person can only get it, you will get nothing. And then also she talks about using the word silly, and I thought this was silly. And how a lot of people use the word silly to undermine emotions, which kind of goes back to week 3 with the whole anger thing, where I would say, oh, I'm sad, I'm just upset, instead of saying I'm angry. The same thing with silly. Like, I do it all the time with YouTube where I go, I just make silly little videos because I think I'm being humble as like I know, like, people are gonna look at this and they're gonna be like, cringe, L, loser. And so I need to get ahead of it. So I need to say, oh, silly little videos. So they're like, oh, she's aware that this is cringe and L and loser, even though deep down, I don't think that, but like I do. And it's just whole mess of stuff. And I was reading this essay she wrote about using like silly and to stop using it because it's undermining you and your work and everything else. And if you underplay it, other people are going to underplay it, and you don't want them to. You want to be taken seriously as a creative. But I thought it was kind of interesting, like, oh, everyone else is doing this too. Everyone has this weird complex around trying to seem humble but confident but in on the joke but not really, like, just how many layers so many of us have wrapped around ourselves to not get hurt, to show that we're cool and uninterested. And you work through all of that in this book. Again, if you are willing and want to and can really dive deep, and the morning pages are really supposed to help you work through all of that. She talks about how there's kind of like the 2-page rule where you can kind of bullshit for 2 pages, but that towards the end of the 2nd page, the truth starts to come out, and then like all of a sudden you're writing, and you're really getting someplace with your emotions and everything. And you've already filled the 3rd page, and I found it where I'm still writing. It's like, I can't let this track sort of go. So even though there have been many times where I'm like, why 3 pages? Why 3 pages? It's so long. It's so much. It's because really once you like hit the bottom of the 2nd page, you're kind of like, okay, you know, now it's starting to come out, and I've put all the crap on the page to try to dance around this, but I can't anymore. It has to come out. I have to work through this. So those were all my kind of like aha things that stood out to me moments from weeks 1 through 6. Either in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I will be uploading 7 through 12. So through the end, everything that I've learned there, and also like my overall opinions of this course. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more lifestyle content, and I will see you in my next video.